JobKeeper cannot last forever. We know that. Retailers don't expect it. But when this ends at the end of the week, where are the biggest problems, do you think?
Well, look, the retail industry has fared reasonably well. The ABS data came out last week at 8.7% increase up on last year. But of course, what it doesn't tell us is these cohorts that are doing it particularly tough. And those particular cohorts are travel retail, of course. So think any retailer that's operated in an airport or in duty-free type locations, or CBD locations, Sydney, Melbourne, Queensland, have all been deeply affected. And we know that the vacancy rates in Melbourne are, the occupancy rate, is about 24%. In Sydney, it's about 48%. So CBDs particularly will be hit hard, and mainly small to medium-sized businesses.
Okay, let's talk about CBD first, and we'll get to travel in just a moment. Would it help if government agencies, the public service, were forced to go back and work in their offices? Is it because people are still being able to work from home?
Well, it's both issues. Now, that's one of them. So obviously this massive trend of people wanting to work from home has meant that the city locations are bereft of office workers. But equally, with the borders shut to international tourists, there is an absence of international tourists and students, I might add. So that's had a double impact on the CBD locations. So yes, what we do need now is some leadership from those bigger companies, public service being at the top there because of the high number of people working in public service that could be led back to offices, at least even in a hybrid model, would make a big difference.
And you talk about travel as well, the travel industry, but also those shops at the airports. I mean, many of them are closed anyway in Melbourne and Sydney, and you're not getting the international travellers through the international airports. Have those retailers had rent relief at some of the big airports during this time?
Well, what's happening is that we're seeing a lot of rent deferral. Of course, that doesn't help because the liability on rent just keeps adding up, and these people are caught up in these long-term leases. Most of them are small to medium-sized businesses. So think of pharmacists and newsagents, that type of business models that are actually reliant on traffic. They're like minus 90%. Most have already have offlaid people, but there's more to come. They're saying that there's about another 250,000 or up to 250,000 people which will be placed on unemployment benefits post JobKeeper ending next week.
Okay, just quickly, these airport associations, they're big monopolies. Should they have done more during this time, and do they need to give more rent relief so this accumulation isn't just going to hit these retailers when they finally do get back on their feet?
Well, if they want those retailers to be there, they need to step in and assist, and there needs to be rent relief, of course, because there's no income to be had.
Yeah.
So, and these organisations, some of them are international organisations, but of course they're worse hit in other locations. So they do need some assistance. Rent is the biggest issue, of course.
It certainly is. Just before we let you go, online spending has been much better. We've seen certainly bright spots in the market, people doing home renovations and buying new couches and things like that because they're spending so much time at home. I know I'm doing my bit for the economy online. Is that been a bit of a bright spot? Have we seen businesses adapt?
We have seen, it has been a huge bright spot. So we've seen lots of businesses adapt, of course. A lot of small to medium-sized businesses have actually pivoted quickly to be able to provide an online offering. It's quite comforting to see that some of these businesses are doing particularly well. We expect, we don't expect a fiscal cliff post JobSeeker and JobKeeper for these people, these businesses, but what we will see is a softening of sales, of course. But these people, most consumers in Australia can't travel right now, so there's all this pent-up savings that we expect people to continue to shop with.